welcome to Saturday Night at the Movies, the podcast that celebrates classic, cult, and current films and the people that made them, and many other aspects of pop culture. I'm your host, Steve Rubin. Our producer is Ben Shrewsbury, and our signature theme was composed by Greg Lerhoff. Here it's always Saturday night, and our mission is to chronicle film and pop cultural history one memory at a time. Tonight, we welcome three-time Oscar-nominated actress and filmmaker Dyan Cannon, well known for her many high-profile film and TV roles, and the author of the book Dear Cary, My Life with Cary Grant. Welcome, Dyan.
Steve, thank you so much. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you. We've been doing this for a couple years now, and we've had some terrific guests on, and just having a lot of fun. I had Russ Tamblyn and George Shakiris on the show a couple weeks ago talking about West Side Story, and had a lot of interesting people. Before we get into talking about some of your roles, I got to put up a picture which I think will get some good commentary from you. And got to talk about the Lakers because it's so funny. Saw you at all the games. You and Jack Nicholson were kind of like fixtures. And I was going to ask you, when did you first become a Lakers fan?
Oh my goodness. Well, I'll tell you the first time I went to a Lakers game, Jerry West was playing and he fell on my lap. That was the first game. And I went with Mike Frankovich, who was at that time head of Columbia Pictures, gave me his seats. And when I started to go to Laker games, I was sitting way up. And I thought to myself, this is the first time in my life I want to work my way down. I want those seats down there, right where all the players are. I love being in the midst of the stuff that's going on. And I'll tell you how I got those seats, my floor seats, if you'd like to know.
Sure, because I know how difficult those are.
Yeah, you can't get them, but I was married to a wonderful man. We are still friends. We are no longer married. When we went through our divorce, I said, you keep the house, I want the Laker seats. That's how I got the tickets.
I went once. I also got some seats for the floor. And what was fascinating to me, which you never hear on the TV broadcasts, is the chatter between the players.
Yeah. Oh, you hear it all, and you get to know them.
Yeah. And I love the fact that Jerry West fell in your lap. That's pretty classic. Now, if you, this is a question people often ask these days. If you were going to create a Mount Rushmore of the four greatest players that you ever saw as a fan, who would you put on your Mount Rushmore?
Oh, don't put me in that. Don't put me. I'm going to be at the bottom of the mountain, and I'm just going to say every player that's ever played, I have respect and honor and great respect for. It is such a tough game. And those guys work so much harder than really I think we all appreciate. I mean, we go because it's a sport and it's fun and it's a game. But it's work. And these players travel to different, now they do get paid for it. I'm not feeling sorry for them. It's not, but I've seen so many great players, love. I mean, so many. I've seen all the greats.
Sure. No, of course.
Many through all the years. And it's like we do with movies. We have Oscars and we compare them, but there's an audience for everything. I think it's so, if you don't mind, I'd just rather say there's so many that I've loved and so many I respect. And I can't name my favorites. I really can't.
Well, you define the fan, and we see all the enthusiasm in your eyes when you're watching the games. And will you be out there this coming season?
Oh, absolutely. I'm so excited.
And LeBron James playing with his son. It's going to be exciting.
How do you feel about that?
Well, I think that, what do I think about that? I think it's puts a lot of pressure on little Bronny. Little Bronny isn't so little. But I think that what better tutor to have your dad right there with you and sharing the glory. I think it'll be a big fan boost.
Oh, I think so too. What a wonderful way of putting it. I haven't heard anyone say that yet. Good for you.
Oh, thank you.
I think the pressure on him, though, must be horrendous.
Yeah, it probably, it probably would have been better for him to do something in a different city. But I understand. This may be LeBron's last season. We don't know, but I think it's an opportunity for them to play together. But I wish them well. Every Sunday, I take a walk in Brentwood, and I walk right by LeBron's house.
Oh,
And
LA?
yeah, I'm in Brentwood.
Okay. Oh,
So I think about them a lot, and I wish them well. Well,
I
let's get into meat and potatoes here. I mean, you were a Washington gal. You were from up the coast. What was the catalyst that brought you down to LA? What brought you down?
Well, actually, I was in Phoenix at the time, and my best friend introduced me to her husband's best friend, and for a fast minute, we became engaged, and that was the reason I came to Los Angeles because of an engagement.
Wow. And at that time, you had no aspirations to be an actress?
Well, I had been acting in high school, and really, it wasn't at the top of my list. No. Uh, I took a history of the theater in Seattle at the University of Washington, but I wasn't acting much then. And no, it was because I was actually discovered.
Well, tell us that story.
Well, I was having lunch at the restaurant called Frascati's on Sunset Boulevard with several girlfriends. I was at that time working downtown for Oscar Levinson, who was an amazing man. He represented a dress line called Eleanor Green,
Hmm.
and I helped him hire models and did his paperwork. And we were having lunch at Frascati's. And a man came up to me and he said, I think you can be a star. Are you an actress? So I'm kicking my girlfriends under the table. I said, yes, I am. He said, what have you done? And I named, I don't know, 13 plays I'd seen. And he said, well, you're too young to be in some of those. I said, well, I do character parts. I do anything. So he said, well, I'd like you to meet Jerry Wald. Jerry Wald was a huge producer at the time in Hollywood. I said, okay, I'd love to. He said, give me your number. I said, no, I think you should give me yours and I'll be in touch. And I went downtown to Oscar and said, I'm quitting my job. And he said, why? I said, because I've been discovered. He said, whoa, Dyan, take it easy. That's not quite the way it goes. So I went to Jerry Wald, had a meeting, walked in the door. Wow, whoo, guns, explosions, cannons. What's your name, kid? I said, Dyan Friesen. He said, Dyan Cannon, that's your name. I said, okay. Can you imagine? I said, okay, just like that.
Just like that. So that's how you became Dyan Cannon, just like that?
Dyan Cannon.
Now, Jerry Wald, if I'm not mistaken, had an office was it on the Fox lot?
On 20th Century Fox. Yeah.
Right there on Pico. Sure.
Made some huge movies. And he said, we want to give you a screen test. So I went downtown to Oscar, said, I'm quitting my job. They're giving me a screen test. He said, Dyan. He was such a wonderful man. He helped me with so much. So they gave me a screen test. The crew applauded. I thought, oh, this is really something. This is going to happen. And that Friday we were called to meet with the suits again, the big guys. So my roommate, we lived in an apartment at that time, my girlfriend and I, with those beds that come down out of the wall and you put them up and you have more of a living room.
I think they're called a Murphy bed.
Murphy bed. And she decided to have a party for me to celebrate my contract. So I went to the meeting and they were all there, but Jerry wasn't there. And they said, we really think you're a good actress and da-dee-da-da and da-doo-da-da, but, and I heard that but and I thought, uh-oh, but your nose is too flat. And I said, for what? And they said, well, it doesn't photograph well. Now look at that cute little nose. I said, oh, and I went home to a party that was being held for me that was going on. And I took the phone into the bathroom and I called my mom and dad, and they were both on extension phones, one upstairs, one downstairs. They said, what's going on? I said, I want a nose job for Christmas. They said, what are you talking about? I said, I just had the screen test and they told me my nose is too flat. And so I want a nose job. And Daddy said, what is a nose job? And Mom said, honey, just relax. You're upset now. But I didn't wait for them. I looked up plastic surgeons, the best in Beverly Hills. And his name was Andrew Parks. And I went to see Andrew and I talked to him and he said, get out of my office. And I said, why? What do you mean? He said, Dyan, they won't just try to change your outside. They'll try to change your inside in this town. He said, as far as I'm concerned, people will be coming to me and they'll be asking for a Dyan Cannon nose in years to come. He said, your nose is just perfect. He said, and so you go and know that you don't have to change any of the outside of you. Can you imagine how I was protected like that?
That's just amazing. It's just amazing. So you didn't have it.
I did not have it. No.
And so what happened to the fox suits?
I don't know. Hi, fox suits. It didn't stop.
So they didn't take you on under a contract.
No, they didn't because of my nose. But I went on to do many other things.
Well, I am going to put up one that just was, let's see. Yes, I think it's let's see if I've got it right here. Hang on one
Sharing that story with you, love, because there's room on the screen for many different looks. So if there are kids out there or people out there that aspire to have a career and people tell them, well, you don't look right, forget that. There's room for everyone. If there's room for my nose, there's room for you.
Absolutely. Now, you made your film debut in a movie called The Rise and Fall of Legs Diamond. And if I'm not mistaken, is that you and your nose right there? Is that you with Jesse White, or am I the wrong person?
I can't see it.
Okay, right there above my head. I pulled up a shot from I thought that might have been you.
I still can't see it. It's too high.
Too high. Okay.
Well, it looks like my breasts.
Okay. Okay. So how did you end up in the arms of Jesse White in the Rise and Fall of Legs Diamond?
I'd sure like to see if that's me, but it looks like my arm. I was the same agent that took me to Fox. Said we're going to get you jobs, and I got a lot of work right away. And I went to audition for one of the girls to be sent to what was the movie called? I toured for it. They said we were in the movie. We weren't. Lay Girls with Gene Kelly and Tanya Elg and Kay Kendall. And they said that we were in the movie. Our publicity said that we were in the movie doing other parts, but we weren't. They lied. And we were with Batista in the castle when Castro invaded. We had a lot of pictures. Yeah.
You were actually in Cuba on that?
We were in the castle with Batista.
Wow.
Castro and his troops invaded. They had to whisk us out of the country. Oh, I've had a lot of adventures. Because
I can believe that. That reminds me of the scene in The Godfather Part 2. I think they also were in the company of Batista in that. I'm going to pull up another movie, which is called, let's see. Yes, it's called The Rebel Breed. Does that ring a bell?
Oh my gosh, I see the picture. That's me.
Yeah, that's remember. But now you play. I love your character name. You play a character named Wiggles, and I assume that because of your girlish figure at the time, that was probably your nickname.
I remember playing a half white, half black girl in that.
Wow.
And I remember being completely devastated because there was so much about the black-white thing happening then. And I remember, I think they threw white paint on an African American, and I almost couldn't go on with the work. I was so devastated. But yes, that is me, and that's Richard Rust. about me. Yeah.
Right, right. And it's interesting. I was listening to the audio version of your book, and which was quite interesting. You were talking about how you fell in love with Italy when you went over there, and you insisted to one of your co-stars that you be allowed to bring Bangs. Now, I'm assuming Bangs was a dog.
Yes.
Bangs was
Dog.
what kind of dog?
A good one.
A good one.
Very, I think he was part poodle, part. I rescue dogs. I've got a bunch here right now that are lying around me. But I don't like to leave my dogs for long, and Bangs was with me. And
Oh, sure, sure. Well, I've got a little sweetie right behind me now. Her name is Kimmy. She's a Maltese. I inherited it from my late mother-in-law. We didn't rescue her. We just brought her over. And Kimmy just had cataract surgery, so she
oh
can
my
see
goodness.
again. Oh, we got to share our dogs. Hang on. Kimmy, come here for a second.
Come here, Charlize.
Come here. Come here. We got to say hi.
Charlize, come here, my
Gotta
baby.
say hi to Diane. We got to say hi to Diane.
Hi.
That's Kimmy. She now can see out of her left eye.
Thank God. Hi, Kimmy.
Hey,
This
say hi to Diane. There's sweetie.
this is
She's such-
Ziggy Zam, Ziggy Can, Ziggy Do Make Moonshine.
Hi, Ziggy. Oh.
And this is Queen Charlize de la Puce au Soleil. Ziggy Zam, Ziggy Can, Ziggy Do Make Moonshine, and Queen Charlize de la Puce au Soleil.
Oh, they're so sweet.
They
All right,
are.
I'm gonna put Kimmy back on the chair so she can go back to sleep.
She just had her surgery, so she's in good shape now.
Yeah, I found a terrific ophthalmologist in Culver City, and we were told by 3 other ophthalmologists that a dog of her age, she's 13, they couldn't operate, but she operated, and it's just like human cataract surgery now. They put a little lens, they scrape away the cataract, and they put a new lens in there, and presto.
Amazing.
Crazy, crazy.
How wonderful.
So by the way, in your book, you talk about going off to work on this little movie that isn't in your IMDb listing of credits because I think it was it shot in Portugal?
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
And what was the name of that movie?
Oh, my goodness.
It's not critical. I was just curious.
I'm sorry. I remember that we looked for land for a long time in that movie.
And your co-star was
Charlie
someone,
Fawcett,
right, right.
an
Mr.
amazing man. That's how I
Charles.
went up in Italy.
Right, and you fell in love with Italy like most people do, just so crazy. So the film that I think probably would be easily referred to as your breakout was Bob and Carol, Ted and Alice.
Right.
And I was looking at this picture here. This is kind of an iconic photograph of the 4 of you. That's you, right? They didn't have to superimpose a photo over you. I just was curious. That's you.
That's me. And that's them.
That's them. And I have to say that this is such a movie of its period. It really shows about the new morals in film in the late 60s. And it looked like you guys were just having nonstop fun with this. Was it a fun show for you?
It was an amazing experience for me. Became very close to Natalie. Elliot and I are still pals. And Bob has gone on to great.
Right. Tell us a little bit about working with Paul Mazursky, obviously an iconic director who kind of carved out a niche for these kind of human dramas and comedies. What was he like?
He was adventurous. He was bold. He was obnoxious. He was stubborn. He was brilliant. I'm very good friends with his daughter, Jill, who is also a producer. In fact, I was at Paul's home the other day. I can still feel him in it. He was, anybody that steps out and is brave enough to do something that's not the popular thing of the day, to me is a champion, and he was a champion. We had great fun, great laughs, arguments. We didn't always agree on everything, but that was part of the pleasure of knowing him. You were allowed to do that. Why am I doing that? Why would I do that there, Paul? It doesn't make sense to me. Why wouldn't I run? Why wouldn't I? And it was his idea. When the scene that I have with the psychiatrist was his psychiatrist. And oh, we had fun with that scene. We had a lot of fun with that
Sure,
scene.
sure.
No improvisation. Every word was on the page.
Talk a little bit about working with Natalie.
Oh, Natalie and I became fast friends. She was an extraordinary girl. I was very beyond sad when she went on. When
It was
she
such a tragedy, and I know there's a lot of controversy about it, but the bottom line is we lost a wonderful performer, and from what I gather, a great mother and a great person.
a great mother, a great friend, a great wife, a great pal, a
Sure.
great co-star. Because I hadn't had, she'd been doing what she'd been doing since she was a kid.
Right.
You remember her in that movie Santa Claus? What was the name of that?
Miracle on 34th
Oh,
Street.
that little face and that. Natalie really never had a chance to just not be in the public eye. She was always under scrutiny. She was always being observed and loved, and I must say very loved by her co-stars. I loved her dearly. I miss her today. Her daughter made me the most amazing dog carrier case for my puppies. Yeah, her daughter's it's just a great family, and I love
Sure.
them. Robert was here actually recently. We filmed up on the roof of the building.
Oh,
So,
were you working on a show with him?
no, just we were doing a thing for my friend Terry Moore.
Oh, Terry Moore, of course, of course. Mighty Joe Young, and so
That's
many other things. I had Robert on the show last year. He's his former agent Bud Moss introduced me to Robert, and I've been a fan of Robert since the 50s. I mean, I
and
love.
I've been a fan of Bud's. Bud's a good guy.
Oh, Bud's a good guy. I'll say hi for you because I talk to him frequently. He just celebrated his birthday. He's a good guy. He has been helpful in getting me guests. He also got me Stephanie Powers and Constance Towers. Powers and Towers.
Well, Stephanie and I are about to do a show together.
Oh, fabulous.
Can't talk about it, but that's as much as I'll say.
Oh, great. I had her, she was just so much fun. All right, let me pull up some other, well, I'm going to pull up a title, which you got to work with one of the great male performers of all time, which is Mr. Sean Connery in the Anderson tapes. And whenever Sean seems to be photographed, he always seems to be in bed with somebody. So this was very typical of him, Mr. James Bond. Uh, you look like you're having a lot of fun there with Sean. I assume that this was a lot of fun for you.
It was so much fun, and working for my wonderful director, and Sean and I remained very good friends. I think ours was an unusual relationship because it was intimate in soul wise, but in no other way wise. And I think it was an unusual relationship for him. But we stayed great friends. I love him so dearly.
Yeah, the Anderson tapes is an underrated movie featuring Sean getting a little away from his James Bond role. I was going to ask you, considering you probably would have been perfect at the time, did you ever audition for a Bond movie?
No.
Well, that was their loss because I thought you'd been a terrific Bond girl.
Oh, great. Well, it's
And,
never that's why I'm
um,
never too late.
Never too late. No, absolutely. Now another movie. Well, this is probably one of my favorite films of yours because it just never stops treating us to some great, wonderful comedy, which is Heaven Can Wait, which of course you were nominated for an Oscar and won a Golden Globe for playing Julia Farnsworth. Charles Grodin to me it has to be one of the funniest men to ever appear in films. He's has the driest humor and his delivery. Bless you.
I've got a fan on, as you know how hot it's been here.
Oh yeah, no, of course, of course. But tell us a little bit about working with Charles.
You know, the way Charles was on camera is the way he was off camera. Excuse me, I don't know. I think it's excuse me, it's the fan going.
Sei gesund.
Thank you. The way he talked on camera and his kind of delivery was the way he was all the time. He was just a delight. It was an adventure to be with him because he made everything new. He made everything fresh. He was so brilliant. He made it all seem so simple. I loved rehearsing with him. I loved acting with him. He used to come out. I had a house in the Colony at the beach at the time. He used to come out and spend time with me at the beach. His was a really sad loss.
Now, this movie is co-directed by Warren and Buck Henry, and it must have been quite an interesting experience to have Warren running around, and also, I guess when he was doing his things, Buck was probably calling action and cuts, I would assume.
Well, sometimes Warren would do all of it.
He would do all of it. I mean, Warren, it's probably one of his most beloved roles ever. And it's a great story. Tell us a little bit about working with Warren.
Warren's a genius. There's no other way to say it. He's just a genius. He just knows. How does he know? I don't know how he knows what he knows. He knows all that. He just knows. And sometimes we agreed, sometimes we didn't. Sometimes he'd want me to do more than 2 or 3 takes. Sometimes we did 18. I said, Warren, in comedy, Warren, you can't do that many takes because it's not funny anymore. And he knew that. He was just testing us. But it was sometimes very challenging because he's a perfectionist. And I don't know if you've worked with perfectionists, but they want perfection.
Right.
To it. So we'd work until he got what he wanted. And he must have been right because it turned out to be a prize-winning movie.
Oh yeah, he's so funny. His character, Joe Pendleton, in Mr. Farnsworth's body, kind of tramps around the house like literally a bull in a china shop. And he walks in the room, and you're sitting there kind of sweetly at your dinner table, having your whatever. And he's, "How you doing?" And you drop your spoon. "Oh, fine, just fine." But and it's just so perfect. What a contrast.
It was high comedy.
High comedy. And you know something? I miss films like that. I've been delving into comedy writing the last 10 years with a good partner, and we've both been moaning, and the listeners and viewers know this. I rail about this a lot, that good comedy in movies has almost disappeared. You know, it really has. And that's why I think we gravitate to watching films like Heaven Can Wait, Bob and Carol, Ted and Alice, because they not only bring us back to some of our favorites, but they remind us how good it is to feel to laugh.
And you know, that's even biblical. I mean, it says in the Bible that laughter is the best medicine. Think about that for a minute. And there's so many films that are so negative and so depressing. And I know kids that are on depression pills, to help them be happy. We need more comedy. We need more things that uplift us and inspire us and illuminate our path.
Sure.
It's fun.
When you were little in Washington and you would go to your favorite movie theater as a kid, what kind of movies were you gravitating toward? Do you have memories of certain kinds of movies?
But my parents wouldn't allow me to go to the R-rated. It had to have an F. At that time, it was family. The best thing about the movies was popcorn. And it was popcorn and candy bars. And my mom used to pop our corn. We would take our own. They didn't mind. So that was the best thing about movies. I just loved movies. I just loved watching and getting into that world with them and trying to solve it and trying to fix it. But most of all, I always remember being most attracted to anything that was funny.
See,
And that My parents didn't want me to see the negative stuff.
Well, they were smart. They were really smart. Let me pull up another picture here. You got to work with Peter Sellers. Speaking of funny,
Speaking of genius, speaking of, we
Revenge of the Pink Panther. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
we used to go shopping for things for the kitchen because he loved to cook. So we'd go shop for things in the kitchen and we'd find the most unusual spatulas and pots and pans. And we had so many dinners and so many shopping experiences. And there was a very unkind movie made about him. And I will tell you right now that whoever made that should repent and say, I'm sorry, because he was one of the sweetest, most lovable people I've ever known in my life. A genius, and we didn't always have to agree with him, but the movie about him was very unkind, and I really felt painted him in colors that he didn't deserve because I spent so much time with him, and it was always a joy, always. And even if we disagreed, it's okay to disagree with people. We don't have to agree all the time. I think that the spirit of division that has now hit our country is really a sad one, which is another reason why we need more comedy to reunite.
So true. So true. Um, we're talking about his Inspector Clouseau is such a classic, iconic comic character. When he would finish a scene as Clouseau and go off the set, would he kind of droop down and slow down, or was he still full of a lot of good energy? Because I've worked with actors who are marvelously animated on screen, but as soon as the director calls cut, they'll go sit in a chair and be very quiet. What was Peter like off camera?
It was relentlessly energetic.
Oh,
Oh my goodness, yes. He did take timeouts, that's okay. But I never felt him lagging. I always felt him ready to go. Um, there was something I was going to say about it'll come back. He was he was nobody made me. Oh, I used to have a pillow that you have on your bed against my face when he'd be acting because I would laugh so hard. Blake threatened us so many times. He said, we cannot spend more time doing this because so I'd hold a pillow to my face because he made me laugh so hard that I couldn't bear it. I couldn't contain it. He was just that funny.
well,
When,
we need more. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
when he would walk in with that parrot on his shoulder and that parrot, I mean, he was a genius. I've worked with so many geniuses.
And it's made you your own kind of genius too, because your comedy is a lot of fun, particularly when you are, I mean, when you can be really a bit wild, you bring a lot of energy. I mean, even in those movies, those scenes in Heaven Can Wait, where you're scared out of your wits that you're going to be found out that you're trying to kill your husband. Charles taps you on the shoulder, you go, just so much fun. This movie now I saw recently, I had not seen it before, which is The Last of Sheila, and this allowed you to go on another great trip.
Last of Sheila, we were in the south of France for months because the boat that they thought we'd film on, of course, on the sea, it doesn't work. So they had to build the sets. And so we were there for Blinken ever, and it was amazing. It was amazing time.
Now I was looking at the cast here.
Rock,
They've got Richard Benjamin, James Mason, Raquel Welch. Is that Sandy Dennis? Who is that next to Raquel there? I'm trying to figure that out.
Joan, what's Joan?
Oh, right. We'll remember her name.
I can't really see it. Let me see.
Yeah, I can pull that up real quick here.
That was Joan.
Yes,
What's his name? My mother used to do that. She used to say, you know, honey, what's her name? Who's married to what's his name?
I'll give you the name in 1 second, then I can edit this out right here, so we can go
Yeah,
right to the last of Sheila,
you know,
and that is, okay, so that is Joan Hackett. Joan Hackett, and the gentleman is that Ian McShane there? Yes, Ian McShane, who's gone on to a big career. I'm a big James Mason fan. I always found him to be terrifically refined and debonair in almost every role he played. And I know that in the audiobook you talk your favorite movie of Cary's is North by Northwest, which I've probably seen 300 times. And is he the most suave agent you've ever seen in that movie?
yeah. And you know that the wonderful thing about James Mason is that he was debonair and elegant, but he arrested you the minute he opened his mouth. You couldn't look anywhere else. He had that kind of anointing or presence, whatever you want to call it. He just whoop, all eyes went there. You never competed with him. You just worked with him and watched this miracle of him, and so much fun off the set. He kept to himself a lot. He didn't. I had a lot of parties because I had a place that was so beautiful in not in Dubrovnik. No, that was another movie. But it was because we were there so long, we had to entertain each other. So we all traded off having dinners and lunches, and her brought
Diane, Diane, did they build the sets on location or back in the studio?
studio back
So,
in the
so you came back to California? No.
sets on the studio there in the
Oh,
where we were.
where you were. And that was off the coast of Italy or the coast of France? Coast of France. Got it. Got it. Yeah, a lot of fun. A good whodunit movie. Of course, Richard Benjamin has gone on to be a director and he's done a great comedy film that I always go back to, which I'm sure you know and love, is My Favorite Year with Peter O'Toole.
Richard is so bright. What a bright and wonderful man. He and Paula are still friends of mine. Uh, he's another genius. And I really, it sounds like I toss that word around, but I don't. These are men who just not only have world knowledge, but they have wisdom with it. And that makes them big in thought.
Yesterday, I went up the street because my wife had bumped into someone who she knew his sister, and it turned out to be the screenwriter of a TV movie you made, which is terribly ironic since we're talking today. And I'm going to pull it up. Let's see. Yes, Lady of the House
Oh
with
yeah.
Armand Asante, where you played a real life person.
I played Sally Stanford, who was first mayor, who had been a madam. She was lady of the house, Sally Stanford. I met with her, talked with her, spent a lot of time with her, had an amazing time playing her with Armand Asante. Yeah.
Right, a very young Armand Asante. And what did the real Sally tell you about being a madam? What that was like? I mean, obviously, that's a pretty high pressure job.
She was so elegant and so well mannered and so dignified that it was hard for me to see her in that position. But I thought, isn't that interesting? And my thought, I'd see somebody entirely different, like I see them pictured so often in film. But she was smart and ran a very successful business. And there was always a red light in her window in Sausalito. Yeah. She was smart and very kind with me and went on to be mayor.
Isn't that amazing? Well, I think that I'll probably get some brickbats for this, but I think that brothels would probably be a helpful part of our society rather than I think prostitution should be legalized and enforced so that the women are treated fairly. But I think that with the horrible things of trafficking these days, and it's become a nightmare world that if it had been done properly, like she did it, it could have been good for society.
You know, I've worked with children of the night for about 40 years. These are kids that are prostituting themselves from age 9 to about 16, 17. And I'm presently working with, I've got 24 recovering addicts that I'm working with, young boys. And what we're teaching our kids, and there's a lot of the movies that we're making, the darkness that we show, it's not helping our kids be inspired and live a life that's easier on them. And the trafficking that's going on is, I have friends, Justice Speaks, other friends that have organizations that have been working so hard to correct it. It's really frightening.
No, it is frightening. I've had some personal experience, not with sex trafficking, but I recently sponsored an ex-convict who wanted to become a truck driver. And he was a good man. He actually wrote to me originally to become a writer, and I gave him some background on writing. And he's been out of prison 2 years. And right now, as we speak, he's driving a truck from Knoxville, Tennessee to Michigan. His It's but these guys, this is another issue with the prisoners. They leave prison, they're given $200 and said goodbye. And we wonder how they end up coming right back to prison because they couldn't make it without somebody like me helping. Otherwise, they'd be back on the street and getting involved in horrible things. And thank you for your work with the young people. And yeah, no, that's really important. Well, the fans will kill me if I don't ask you a little bit about Cary. I mean, Cary to every film fan who's alive is such a icon in so many ways. I was reading I was listening to your book, which was so interesting about the fact that he pursued you. He saw you on television and said, "I want to meet this girl," and you were not exactly dropping everything to meet him. I thought that was kind of cute.
Did you see the miniseries? You know, I wrote a book
Right, right. My Cary.
about it.
And
Did you?
I did not see the miniseries. But,
Yes.
oh, you're talking about the one where Jason Isaacs
Yes.
plays the older Cary. That's on the BBC network. I'm dying to see that. And because I'm
First
a
out
big
Amazon Prime,
it's
and then it's on BritBox.
oh,
And
fabulous.
done very well. It's earning awards in England. Yes, I worked with Jason and the girl that played me for months. Uh, they can see it all on the miniseries. But
Right.
yes, I didn't go out with him for 8 months. Um, I was in Italy when they called, and I said, "Oh, he wants me for a movie. Is he paying my way back?" They said, "No." I said, "I'm not coming back. I'm going to stay in Italy." And when I came back, I was only taken to him without knowing it by my agent, who took me because he said I had some meetings on the Universal lot, and he took me by to meet Cary, and that's how that all started.
I mean, the impression one gets is that he was very refined, very well, the same way I'm describing somebody like James Mason, very debonair, very strong in his shoes, somebody who knew who he was and had a good sense of humor. In fact, I think someone once said, this is an off-quoted line, that he said he wishes he could be that Cary Grant character that he is on the movies because it's so refined. I mean, that's another thing, by the way, that's missing from movies, because seeing a movie like North by Northwest, you're reminded about quotable dialogue that you just remember, and remember. He's sitting across from Eva Marie Saint on the train, and she's trading these jabs with him, and he finally says to her, "How did a woman like you get to be a woman like you?" And the way he says it.
Yeah, he was He was, he had a very, very, very tough childhood.
Right.
See the miniseries, you'll understand. Um, I don't want to spell it or ruin it for anybody that hasn't seen it, so I'm not going to tell you about it. But he had a big heart. He was wounded as a child, took him years to get over it. I was his fourth wife. There was a fifth who was a friend of mine. He was at heart when he would let go and just be who he really was. He was so much fun. So much fun.
And you guys had a baby together.
I was the only one he ever had a child with. Yeah, because he trusted me. He didn't trust. He didn't trust people. He didn't trust them. And to understand where he came from, you'd understand why. My love, I have a few more minutes with you.
Yes.
So want to ask me, you ask me because I have an appointment at 2.
No, I am nearly done. Dyan, this has been, I knew that we would have fun because of all the things you have been involved with. And this has been just terrific. I mean, we haven't really talked about a lot of your TV stuff, but we certainly covered the movies and I'm so glad you're working again as well. And you're going to be working on a project which you can't talk about with Stephanie Powers, you said.
I've got a couple of others, and I've had 2 movie scripts written for me, and I'm excited about getting back in the ring again. But I'm very particular, and a lot of this stuff today, as you know, is so dark, and I just can't lend myself to it. I really want to do things that are going to inspire people and uplift them. Even if you look up entertainment in the dictionary, do you know what it says? It says to uplift. Isn't that interesting?
Well, also, the reason we started going to the movies as kids is we wanted to kind of get away from reality and just go on something fun and escape from. I mean, everything from The Wizard of Oz to King Kong and Abbott and Costello and the Laurel and Hardys. That was what brought people into the movie theaters for the first place. Listen, I think anybody who does a dark issue movie that brings out the darkness and exposes it deserves a candle. But we also have to balance that with more fun. We got to have more fun out there, absolutely. Well,
I don't
yeah.
need more candles. I just want fun. Just give me fun and let's.
Perfect, perfect. Well, you've certainly given us a lot of fun over the years, and we look forward to what's upcoming with you. Everyone, we have been listening and watching Saturday Night the Movies with Dyan Cannon. Your host, Steve Rubin, our producers, Ben Shrewsbury. Dyan, thank you so much, and I wish you all the luck in the world with everything and your wonderful little puppies there as well.
Steve, thank you so much. So grateful. Your dog's cataract surgery was great. And why don't you put out some of the comedies you're writing?
We need to find a literary agent. That's been our big issue. Very challenging. Maybe we can talk off camera about that.
If I have any thoughts, I'll share them with our friend Jeff.
No, absolutely. Jeff and I worked together at Showtime. That's how you and I got together here.
Yes, I know.
Yes, perfect.
It's been a pleasure. You're a darling. Hello to everybody that's watching. Goodbye to everybody that's watching. We hope to connect soon. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
God bless you.
God bless you.